Shalom. The Parsha for today is Vayishlach, Jacob sent. Jacob now sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, in the countryside of Edom. Genesis chapter 32, verse 4. Now the readings for this week is Genesis chapter 32, verse 4 to Genesis chapter 36, verse 43. And the summary of this Parsha is that Jacob prepares to meet his brother Esau, and Jacob wrestles with a mysterious man who changes Jacob's name to Israel in Genesis 32, 4 to 33. And Jacob and his brother Esau meet and parted peacefully, each going his separate way. Genesis 33, 1 to 17. Dinah was raped by Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, who was a prince of the city. Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, take vengeance by killing all the males of Shechem, and Jacob's other sons join them in plundering the city. Genesis chapter 34, verse 1 to 31. Now Rachel died in giving birth to Benjamin and is buried in Ephraim, which is the present-day Bethlehem. Genesis 35, 16 to 21. And Isaac dies and is buried by his children in Hebron. And Esau's progeny are listed in Genesis 35, 22 to 36, 43. Now, when do we read this Vayishlach? It is read for this year, December 6, 2014, that is 14 of Kislev of this year, November 28, 2015, next year, that is 16 of Kislev, and December 17, 2016, that is 17 Kislev of the Hebrew calendar. Because we know how it ends, we may not feel the suspense as Parashat Vayishlach opens. Jacob prepares to return home and confront his estranged brother Esau after 20 years apart. They had not parted on good terms. Esau vowed to kill his brother by stealing their father's blessing. Rebekah sent Jacob off to her brother Laban to wait it until your brother's rage cools down, in Genesis 27:44. Now, 2 decades later, Jacob fears Esau's vengeance as much as the day he left home. His messengers inform him that Esau approaches accompanied by 400 men in Genesis 32:7, with motives unknown to Jacob. Do they come in peace or to make war? Thus Jacob was terrified. So anxious was he, according to Genesis 32:8, scared for his safety and his family's in the face of what Esau might do. Most readers are likely to gloss over this verse, but the rabbis don't ignore apparent redundancy in the Torah. Every word has a purpose, so when the text describes Jacob as terrified and anxious, there must be a reason for both description. The Midrash Bereshit Rabbah offers an explanation. Rabbi Judah bar Rabbi Eli asked, "Are not fear and distress identical?" The meaning, however, is that he was afraid lest he should be slain. He was distressed lest he should slay. For he thought, if Esau proves stronger than I, he might slay me. And if I prove stronger than he, I might slay him. In a typical midrastic fashion, the rabbis present a more complicated character of Jacob than is obvious in the Torah. In their eyes, Jacob fears both his brother and what he himself may have to do to his brother in his own defense. Hebraic tradition imposes limits on our use of force, even in legitimate self-defense, be it full-scale warfare or interpersonal conflict. It invites us to consider how to fight evil without becoming evil. Jewish values calls us to be reluctant warriors, like Jacob in this midrash, who can balance self-preservation with the moral use of power. A moral agent must use non-lethal force if that option is available. Maimonides affirms this principle in the Mishneh Torah. When a person can save a victim at the cost of a limb of the pursuer, and he does not take the trouble to do it, but instead save the victim at the cost of the pursuer's life by killing him, such a person is a shedder of blood and is liable for death. Even though the command to save a life bears great sanctity in our tradition, the rabbis do not consider it a blank check. One who kills in order to save a life, including his own, is considered a murderer if he had a non-lethal option and failed to use it. Ancient tradition also warns against glorification of violence even when justified. The Hebrew prophet's vision of the days of redemption aspired to peace. Isaiah spoke of the day when the nations shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not take up sword against nations. They shall never again know war, according to Isaiah chapter 2, verse 4. And Maimonides codified this aspiration into law. The sages and the prophets did not yearn for the days of the Messiah in order to have dominion over the entire world. Rather, they wanted to be free to devote themselves to Torah and wisdom with no one oppressing or disturbing them. In that era, there will be neither famine or war, jealousy or competition. We live in a world where violence confronts us and sometimes demands a forceful response. Yet we always aspire to peace, especially in the midst of war. As we acknowledge the necessity of exercising power as a moral obligation, we guard against the glorification of violence. In this week's Torah portion, it turns out Jacob has nothing to fear. Esau greets him with a loving embrace, and the reunited twins cry on each other's shoulders. Fear can be useful emotion when it alerts us to danger and prepares us to take up the duty of self-defense. But fear can also lead us to misread cues and react defensively when the situation calls for a hand outstretched in friendship rather than violence. May the Lord grant us the strength to fight when real threats confront us, the courage to pursue peace when the opportunity arises, and the wisdom to know the difference. Shalom.